kick is up, and it's good.
You're listening to The Extra Point, hosted by Phil Ruskin. Welcome.
Yo, 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 welcome in. Welcome to another episode of The Extra Point. I'm your host, Phil Ruskin. Looking forward to a really fun show tonight. Got my guy Kendall with me as always, but Evan, welcome to the show, man. First timer. Excited to have you here. And boys, happy holidays, happy new year, really. I mean, the holidays are now beyond us, so happy new year. Kendall, you know I always like to start the show with a question. Do either of you have a good New Year's resolution, or maybe just something you want to accomplish here in the first part of the year?
Ooh, New Year's resolutions, man. I definitely don't say I made like a solid one where I like write one down or whatever. I'm more like overarching, what's the big column right here. But I think for me, this is definitely gonna be the year that I focus a bunch on Get Right Fantasy. The New Year's resolution is definitely to get us to a self-sustainable point by the end of the year. I
Love
think
it.
Maybe eat a little healthier. I think we're going
There
to
you
do a
go.
slightly healthier thing.
One personal, one professional. I can appreciate that. Evan, what about you, man?
I like to try to be the person to not restrict myself to waiting for the beginning of our Gregorian calendar year and end in order to make an accomplished goal. It's like, if I want to be able to accomplish something, I just fucking do it right now.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait for the beginning of a year and be a part of that like new gym membership crowd who's going to stop going to the gym after a week or two, if even that. So I do have those similar cliche goals because I need to drop at least 10 pounds, and I broke my pinky toe on January 3rd. I saw an orthopedic doctor today to follow up, and it's healing just as well, so I have to put a lot of my fitness goals on hold for right now and just try not to get fat while just sitting around and not being able to work out much. So I can at least get back to the gym and start doing upper body and core stuff.
Nice.
I'm going to be the best Bears fan I can be.
Yeah, speak it into
play.
existence, man. Speak it into existence. So, well, thanks for joining us. We are going to be doing over the next 4 weeks the way too early Dynasty rankings by position. We're going to start tonight with the big sexy. We're going to go right for it and get into the quarterback rankings. Next week, we will jump into the running backs, followed by the wide receivers. And then 3 weeks from now, in week 4, we will do the tight ends, and we will do some wide receivers that don't quite make it into our top 36, since there's not enough tight ends to talk about. So that's what we've got coming for you here. I am off to Italy for the majority of the month of February. Your boy turns 40 on Thursday here this week, so I've got the big one coming up. So yeah, I will be out most of February, but when I am back, we will be doing, folks, as always, our rookie previews. Kendall, myself, Evan, and all of us here at the Get Right Fantasy Network. We will be getting you ready for that April Dynasty draft, whether it is a startup or you are just in your rookie draft. So in the month of March, we will be covering all things rookies as we really ramp up our preparation so that we can help you make the best draft pick to change that fantasy and that dynasty lineup that puts you over the top and gets you another championship.
Phil, I'm already 40, so trust me, it's not bad. It's good.
I've never really felt older on a birthday, and I think this is the first time that my body's not slowing down, which is good, but I have more gray hair, a lot more gray hair. So that's where I get up and I'm like, fuck, I'm 40. Here we go. If you guys have your rankings, I want to go through this here. I asked the guys to prepare their top 24 quarterbacks and to put them into tiers. And so what I want to do is I want to go through them, and we're going to start at the top. This isn't a mystery surprise, 24 down to 1 countdown. We're going to start at the top. Kendall, you're on my left side of the screen here. Give me the guys that are in your tier 1 and your rankings, please, for the upper echelon quarterbacks here in the NFL.
Yeah, sure. I'll actually get him in a spot. I can maybe get him on screen here, but I'll just verbally tell you right now. So, and just a quick PSA. So the way I do tier-based rankings, right, this is the way too early. So I'm really looking to put guys that I like in a similar tier. I'm really looking to get the tiers figured out, and the individual rankings, I just want guys next to each other that makes sense. We'll kind of talk through the tier break a little bit, so I'm not going to stand behind these too much yet, but I got Josh Allen sticking at 1. I got Drake May at 2. Jaden Daniels coming in at 3. Keeping Lamar at 4. And I'm going to slide Joe Burrow into the bottom of tier 1 from a safety standpoint. Joe sneaks into 1 clearly on just he's Joe and he's stable. Tier 2's got questions.
Evan, tier 1 quarterbacks for us.
So I just updated my Dynasty rankings today. I have Drake May 1 and Jackson Dart 2. I'm not sure if I'm going to regret putting Jackson Dart that high, but I can't resist the upside that comes with having a quarterback that's proven to be as mobile and has a pretty good rookie arm to be able to get the ball in the hands of a guy like a Wan'Dale Robinson. And I'm just trying to also put into consideration, what is Jackson Dart going to be like as a quarterback when Malik Neighbors comes back from his ACL tear?
Right.
So right now I have May, Dart, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, and Caleb Williams in my tier 1. I like to have 5 players in my tier 1 as opposed to 3. I have to admit I am new to the tier system. I don't really have a strong opinion or know what I'm doing right now when it comes to creating dynasty tiers. I like just having my rankings all just 1 to whatever. So this will be new for me.
No, that's why we're here. I like it. I have 3.5 quarterbacks in tier 1, and you'll understand why in a second. I have Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson, and then I have tier 1.5 by himself, and that's Drake May. And so I think the consistent thing here is, Kendall, you've got May at 2, Evan, you've got May at 1. Here's why I have Drake May at tier 1.5, technically ranked 3rd. A couple years ago, Kendall, you'll remember this. You and I talked about this. If you go on Keep Trade Cut, if you go on Fantasy Pros, if you go on the Fantasy Footballers, they will have their dynasty rankings. The consensus number 2 quarterback in any dynasty startup 2 seasons ago, coming off of his Rookie of the Year performance, was CJ Stroud. You couldn't trade for him unless you paid an arm and a leg. He was unacquirable unless you were in the top 3 or 4 picks in a dynasty startup draft. And now CJ Stroud, I'm just going to preview my rankings, guys. I have CJ Stroud in tier 5 at quarterback 18. And so here's why I'm hesitant with Drake May. I think Drake May is a far better quarterback than CJ Stroud is. I think he has shown more mobility. He has shown a better deep ball. He has truly everything that you would measure as a metric. I think Drake May is far and away a better quarterback than I'm looking at Jaden Daniels, who's below him here, than CJ Stroud. But I'm leaving some room of if he could go up or down. Do I think realistically that he belongs in the top tier with Allen, Burrow, and Jackson according to my rankings? Yes, I do. I've seen it. But what happens after year 2? And so it's my buyer beware situation, right? Kendall, I'm sorry, I have to bring this up. I know you're going to hate me for doing it, but Kendall and I traded, and I traded away CJ Stroud. I was able to acquire Lamar Jackson, and that trade doesn't feel very good. And
I did beat him in the finals. Okay,
he did beat
that's
me
all
in
I'm
the
going to
final.
say.
That's true. I had a 31-point lead in the final, and Bijan, well, I didn't think he would score 31 against the Rams, and he didn't. He didn't score 31 against the Rams. He scored 37. So I did lose to Kendall in the final. But my point is this: I have no problem if you want to trade for Drake May, but as we always say on this show, do not mortgage everything you have, because it can take you a long time to rebuild your dynasty team. So if you're in a startup and you want to pull the trigger in the top couple of picks in a snake draft on Drake May, go for it. If you're in an auction and you want to put him up in the 2 or 3 top 4 of the priced up quarterbacks, absolutely no problem with it if you want to make that the centerpiece of your team. I'm more comfortable drafting him early or paying up for him in an auction as an anchor of my team than I am trading for him. Kendall, Evan, do you guys agree with that statement?
Curious to see your take here, Evan.
So Phil, run that by me just one more time.
So if you're in a startup where let's say it's an auction startup where you have access to all the players, and Josh Allen goes off the board at $60, and then Burrow and Jackson go off in the high 50s, 58, 57. If you want to come in with May at $55, let's just assume it's a $200 budget. It doesn't matter what the budget is, but let's just say it's a significant portion of your budget. I'm fine with that, because that's where I would make the investment into my own team to believe that Drake May is going to be a top tier guy. And I do believe he's going to be a top tier guy for the next 3 to 5 years. We play Dynasty in a 3-year window. What I think is the problem is people know and believe that he's going to be a top tier guy. So if you're trying to acquire him via trade, I think the price is going to be more to acquire him versus being able to just get him in a startup where you have access to either a draft pick or an auction dollar amount.
Yeah, it's a good point there, Phil. Actually, I was going to say that draft picks versus auction budgets tend to not have like a one-to-one feel. Right. The idea is that it's easy to say like, oh, this guy went for blank. This guy should go for blank. With draft picks, you can say, oh, no, Josh Allen's just not moving. So I don't have a market price because I don't have a market price. So the seller's just going to set something unrealistically high because there isn't that direct parallel to an auction where it's like, nope, he's priced $1, just under, 1% under the rest of tier 1. I do think auction is absolutely the cheapest way to acquire him. We're in a league at tier 1.5, to your point. I think you're making the point he's less acquirable in your traditional dynasty league. And this is more of a startup play where you can invest heavily into him, where on the trade market, it's a little less gettable.
To use your words, Kendall, like we talk about all the time, you would have to pay a tax. It's not Drake May is worth 2 first-round picks. It's I want 2 first plus. And I think that's the price.
Yeah. He's a meme now. Now that he's got a nickname. His nickname is his name, but now that he's a thing, once you become a thing, your value isn't necessarily tied to your football. Shador is probably the biggest example of the guy's trending online all the time. Everybody's about Shador. He hasn't done anything in the NFL yet, right? Drake May has that sort of, he's transcended his football value into you just want a piece of him on your team. He's pricey.
Yeah, agreed. I think, again, we talked about this backstage pre-show, guys, but we need to get into some of these deeper tiers, and that's where I want to spend a ton of time tonight, because I think if you're in a startup draft, whether it's a snake or an auction, you know who the top quarterbacks are. You know who to draft. There's no real, whether it's single quarterback or super flex, I don't think there's a ton of parity. Sure, we may differ on a spot or two here.
So, Phil, it's worth noting that I didn't actually get to answer the question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Kendall, you threw me. Go for it.
God damn. Anyway, so I'm not paying 2 firsts for Drake May. I don't give a shit how valuable he is right now. I'm not paying 2 firsts to get a quarterback like a Drake May. Yeah, he's a heavy buy. He's probably the most popular quarterback to buy in dynasty leagues. I think we can safely say that. But I will say from my philosophy, ain't no way I'm paying 2 firsts to get Drake May, because I don't believe any NFL player in Dynasty is worth mortgaging your future just to get one player. If anything, you want the aggregate of across multiple players. You don't want to invest too heavily in one player, because the moment Drake May goes down with an injury, who are you going to replace him with? Right. You better have some freaking depth. So ain't no way I'm going to overpay for a guy like Drake May. He is my QB1 right now, but that doesn't mean that I got to have him on all my dynasty teams. It's got to be the right situation.
Agreed. I may disagree with you on the price point, but I agree with you in the principle of, like, I'm not going to overinvest multiple years worth of picks for one player because of injury, because of regression. So I think we agree on that part as well. So, guys, let's go through your tier 2. And if you have Kendall, if you have your tier 2 quarterbacks, let's go through those real quick here as we get into what would be quarterback 6, because you both had 5 guys in your tier 1.
Yeah, absolutely. So happy. Yeah, this is where my tier 2 is really where my real debate kind of started. Leading off of tier 2 at quarterback 6 for me is going to be my boy Caleb Williams, slotted just ahead of Patrick Mahomes at 7, Justin Herbert at 8, although maybe Evan might have convinced me to knock him up 1. I got Jackson Dart at 9, and Jalen Hurts is my probably biggest rankings mover down at QB 10, bottom of tier 2. Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Dart, Hurts.
All right. So my next 5, which will count as my tier 2, I have Lamar Jackson at 6, Joe Burrow at 7, Bo Nix at 8, Jalen Hurts at 9, and Patrick Mahomes at 10.
Love it. I had a 3 quarterback tier 2, QB 5 for me, Jaden Daniels, QB 6, Patrick Mahomes, QB 7, Jalen Hurts. We are going to do a segment later here in the show. Who is the biggest riser? Who is the biggest faller? I will give you a preview. One of the answers to that question is he is in my tier 2 of who I think will be a riser or a faller here next season after 2026. I want to start with Jackson Dart, and I'll just preview it, guys. I have Jackson Dart in tier 3 at QB 9. So Caleb, the same spot as you, Kendall, albeit in a different tier. But let's talk about Jackson Dart because, Evan, you have him at QB 2. I think we would all agree we liked what we saw this season, both from a passing and a rushing perspective. As much as we love the rushing, I think he needs to learn to slide or at least get out of bounds and protect himself a little bit more.
Yep.
But I do think he's a really interesting prospect for 2 reasons. Number one, like I just said, what we saw on the field. But number 2, I am really interested in who becomes the next head coach and offensive coordinator of the Giants, because I think right now, if my memory's right, there as of the Steelers, as of Tomlin's resignation day, there are 9 jobs available, or 10. 9, I think. Someone can fact check me on that. But my point being is, I believe wholeheartedly that the Giants is the most attractive job offer for a coaching candidate. This is my opinion, for a coaching candidate this offseason in this hiring cycle, because of Cam Scadaboo, because, of course, of Malik Neighbors, because of that defense, and there's a lot of pieces on that defense we like, but because of Jackson Dart. So, Evan, I want to start with you because you're the highest on him. What is it about Dart that has you so confident that he's not only in tier 1, but he's your overall QB 2 right now?
So I have to admit it was a little impulsive on my part, being that I really, really liked what I saw when Jackson Dart was healthy. And there are some flaws to his game, like what you pointed out. I mean, he was a rookie that was just thrown to the wolves under center for the New York Giants because Brian Daboll was trying to save his job. And I think he exceeded expectations with the limited offensive weapons that he does have in his offense. He's shown that he can move the ball with his legs and with his arm. He can make Wan'Dale Robinson look like $1 million. He's getting Theo Johnson finally involved, looking like a reasonable pass-catching tight end who could be a valuable streamer in redraft leagues, but a tight end too in dynasty leagues. And like I said earlier, imagine what he's going to be like when Malik Neighbors comes back.
Yeah.
So we don't know who the new offensive coordinator is going to be. We don't know who the head coach is going to be. So, yeah, the Giants on paper do look like a very attractive team because the Dart, Scadaboo, the exciting whites are going to be a marquee team to go to because a lot of coaches are going to want to go there. So, I think there's several good candidates for them, but Jackson Dart, if he can stay healthy and hoping that Brian Daboll didn't ruin him his rookie year, because he had to be checked for in 10 games this year. He had to be checked for a concussion 5 times.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
Like, that's extremely alarming for a rookie quarterback. So who knows how many concussions he's really had. He had 1 confirmed against the Bears, but I think he's had multiple and he's been playing through some of them. But that's just my unfounded opinion. That's neither here nor there. But I think Dart's potential, I think the offensive line for the Giants is not going to be very good again, but that's not going to matter because he's got the legs. So right now, I'm impulsively at QB2. That may change in the next week or so. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the concussions, right? And that doesn't account for what he sustained at Ole Miss. At the end of the day, it does have shades of Tua. You know, it sort of screams buyer beware. I do think, given the playing style that he has, look, he's the franchise quarterback. They drafted him to be so. And after 1 season, it is a small sample size, but he looks to be the franchise quarterback. So they will educate him on taking care of himself, sliding, putting him in situations where he can hopefully get the ball out quicker so he doesn't absorb the big hits. Kendall, you had him at 9, so still inside your top, 10, obviously a QB1, no matter whether you're in a 10 or 12 team league. Is there anything about Dart that would say to you he can get into this top tier 1 where you have Lamar and Jaden and May and Allen, because those are the rushing quarterbacks? can Jackson Dart, given his rushing upside, get into that elite tier in your mind?
Yeah, he definitely can. He absolutely can. Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts are both examples of this, where it doesn't take that much when you have legs. I've never thought Jalen Hurts was a good passer of the football at like an NFL talent, right? I mean, the QB 20 in the NFL still's got some arm talent, right? And when we get into tier 4, I'm a big Tyler Shuck guy, right? It's like they're all good. When you start getting your rankings, you're like, wow, it's in the 20s, but I still like him. So we're being relative here. Here's how it easily gets into tier 1. His legs aren't just like a little bit of athleticism or Herbert or even, Drake May. I was a big fan in the scouting process where I'm just like, Drake May 2 to 3 points with his legs on top of his Herbert-like arm. 2 to 3 points is big. We're talking 6 points a game plus from Dart's legs on an offense that I think has above average kind of underrated pieces. Like I think Malik Neighbors is the type of wide receiver that you say to yourself as a dynasty manager, he's going to have a lot of passing touchdowns and he's going to have yardage. Malik Neighbors is not necessarily always a PPR 10 catches for, 2 yards where it's like, it's great for the wide receiver, right? Jalen Waddle rookie season. We loved that, right? But it's terrible for your quarterback, right? We want quarterbacks that we can bank on 2 touchdowns and at least reasonable yardage, but I want to see the touchdowns skew more heavily towards the passing game, right? With Dart, I've got passing or he takes it himself, or he has a proclivity for passing to his running back very early on, which is extremely friendly for fantasy, right? We have the chances that you're coming away with a big play in the red zone from your quarterback are just massive. So he gets in there pretty easily by just always having pathways to mid 20-point games and literally any game script. You're winning by a bunch, no problem. Hurts was probably the best quarterback in the NFL last couple seasons at, they're up by 20. I guess I'm screwed. No, he'll still rush in 2 touchdowns, right? So that's how he gets into my tier 1. It follows a Jaden Daniels-like path. He has a good arm to Neighbors and then does enough with his legs where he slots in almost carbon copy of Jaden Daniels. Ahead of schedule with his arm, enough with his legs that he's a cheat code.
Yeah, I have him in tier 3 at QB 9. And it's, I'll be honest, it's a little bit of only 1 year of sample size bias. Again, like what I saw, loved some of what I saw, had some questions about what I saw, right? So that's why I have him pretty comfortable. Now, look, still inside of a QB1, regardless of format. But at the end of the day, I do think Jackson Dart is a player that, because of the rushing upside, can make that year 2 leap. I would be really excited to see, an aggressive play caller come in and become the offensive coordinator. I'd be really interested. It seems like Harbaugh is the front runner, but Harbaugh is probably the front runner for every job that's open right now. The Giants seems to have the most noise around it, but like a Jesse Minter would be a really interesting name if he were to come over, and what he could potentially do with a quarterback like Jackson Dart, along with obviously the other offensive pieces. So I want to get into tier 3 because my tier 3 has some names that you guys have in your tier 2. But I'm gonna preface my tier 3 with, this is my biggest tier. This is where I have the most players ranked. So I'll start this one off, guys. I have Caleb Williams at 8, Jackson Dart, as I mentioned, at 9, Dak Prescott at 10, Justin Herbert 11, Brock Purdy 12, and Trevor Lawrence at 13. Kendall, I'll start with you. Who is in your tier 3 of QBs?
Sure. So my tier 3, again, tier 2 for me ended with the Dart Jalen Hurts at 10.
Yep.
So my tier 3 starts at QB 11, goes through 15. I've got Brock Purdy 11, Bo Nix 12, Trevor Lawrence 13, Jordan Love 14, Sam Darnold 15. So Purdy, Nix, Trevor, Love, Darnold. Tier 3.
Evan?
I have Herbert at 11, Purdy at 12, Stroud at 13, Goff at 14, and then Prescott at 15.
Okay, interesting, right? So we've all got Purdy kind of hanging around the same spot, 11, 12. I have him at 12. As much as I'd love to sit here and talk about him, we're not going to do that tonight, because I think there's some other guys in this tier that we really need to get to that have more questions about them. Purdy to me has questions, but the questions are: is he going to have a 5 turnover game? It's not what you're going to get from Purdy. I think you pretty much know what you're going to get from Purdy. You're going to get consistency. You're probably going to get 2 to 3, potentially 3 touchdowns a game, and anywhere between 225 and 300 yards on a big day. And of course, he's capable of the 5 touchdown, 350 plus night. What I'm curious about for you guys, because I'm trying to look through here. Did I miss somebody, Evan, in your rankings? No, you had him all the way up here in tier 1.
Yeah.
I want to spend some time on Caleb Williams, right? Because Kendall, you have Caleb at 6. I have him at 8, and Evan has him all the way at 5. So I'm going to start because I know you guys are Bears fans, and I'm going to put a timer on you guys because we'll be here all night, the same as I could talk about Purdy. Look, Caleb Williams finishes here as the QB9, and you've got to attribute that not only to Ben Johnson's coaching, but to the playmakers that are around him, right? To the scheme, the fit. At the end of the day, the issues that people have had with Caleb is he's been inaccurate. He's missed his open throws. And at the end of the day, you're going to look into something that's, you can track any sort of stat and metric that you want. But me as a former coach, I'm telling you what Ben Johnson is saying in the actual meeting rooms. It's the attention to detail. It's not just, are you missing this open throw? It's, why are you missing this open throw? Is it your footwork, right? Are you not stepping in? Is it, is it the timing? Is it, you're not getting the ball out? Is it your release angle? It's all these little details that, again, you can go through what you like. Scott Barrett at Scott Barrett DFB. We've got a Fantasy Point Data's kind of a tweet that I found here earlier today, and shout out to Classic Mike for sending this in the group chat. But Caleb Williams' overall catchable percentage is 69.4, which ranks him 31 out of 35 quarterbacks this year. So he's not throwing a great ball. He will clean that up. He will improve. I think the hate on Caleb Williams has been the same as it is on a lot of number 1 picks. Well, you're not setting the world on fire. You're not finishing as the overall QB1. You're not winning me my week like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson can do with 50 fantasy points. But I don't think that's what you're asking Caleb to do. I think you're asking Caleb to do what he's done, which is finish inside as a QB1 week after week. And if we can see that consistency improve from Ben Johnson, which we will, you can see a year 2 leap, and I think you will, from Colston Loveland into a top. We'll preview him right now. If he's not a locked and loaded top 5 tight end next year, I think something's wrong. And I think he absolutely should and will be. You're going to see a year 3 leap, and even, hopefully a fully healthy season with Rome. And we'll see what happens with DJ Moore and the rest of the supporting cast. But there's weapons around Caleb to make me believe that he's going to be able to return low-end QB1 numbers as his floor. Excuse me, high-end QB1 numbers as his ceiling. Evan, I'll start with you because you're a little bit higher than Kendall, but he's in that top tier. Excuse me, guys, I've got something here. What's making you put Caleb here all the way at number 5 and at the bottom of your tier 1?
Well, Phil, I don't know what leagues you're in necessarily with QB rankings, but Caleb Williams finished as the QB5 in common fantasy football leagues, and I think that's where he's there to stay based on the heavily improved season he has with Ben Johnson, the weapons he's got, and having a coach that's actually going to develop him to his full potential as a number 1 overall pick back in 2024. You mentioned a lot of negatives to his game that he's still ironing out right now, between like a completion percentage and not necessarily having a lot more upside in like rushing, for example, where he's not necessarily the first option to get in the end zone. But I listen to those and I go, so fucking what? That's more important for real football than fantasy football, because he finishes the QB5. So he found more consistency starting in week 12, where he never had below double-digit fantasy figures. It would be dreamy to have 20 points every single fucking week from your quarterbacks, but that's just not realistic in fantasy football. They're always going to have that single-digit game where they take like 9 points just because of a blowout loss in a weird game against a division rival. But Caleb Williams is QB5, and he's there to stay for the foreseeable future with how elite he is as a quarterback. If you watch the games and see the laser throws that he makes, they are Patrick Mahomes level. And I will not apologize for making that comparison, because he's got that in him. Yeah, he's still ironing out some parts of his game where he misses a handful of easy throws here and there, but he's in the middle of year number 2. The experience factor and the coaching is going to help him iron that out. So I'm keeping him at 5 for fantasy value.
Yeah, and I apologize. I just had a typo of QB9. So yeah, thanks for checking me on that. The throw that he made against the Packers, I think, is fourth quarter, rolling to his left, where he just kind of literally fits it right into that tight window. I think it's the best throw I've ever seen him make. And I've watched a lot of Bears games this year. So I'm with you. I think there are things that he will improve. And you're right. I think while there are things that are probably more important for real football, more completions, more yardage is never going to be a bad thing for fantasy football as well. So yeah. Kendall, you are at QB6 at the very top of your tier 2. I'm going to ask you this same kind of question I asked you just a couple minutes ago about Jackson Dart. Caleb is more in the Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes type usage of his legs. He's an athletic runner. He's a lot faster than you think he is. It's funny, like watching certain plays, and I watch the game and I'm watching him scramble and I'm like, dude's actually got some wheels. Like, I actually think he can make some, it's not just the athleticism, but I think he can make some pretty hard sprints that other quarterbacks, I'm not talking about older quarterbacks, but youthful quarterbacks can't make. Maybe they'd get 7-8 yards and he's getting 9-10. So, but because, and this is my question to you, Kendall, because Williams is not a true designed runner, can he make with the off-scheduled plays, can he make enough throws knowing that he still hasn't broken that Bears franchise record for passing yards? Can he make that leap into that top tier without being a true, designed runner, a Josh Allen type goal line type back?
He has done the single season record, though. That's worth pointing out.
Right, that's true.
You're just shy of the 4K, though. I know
Just shy of that 4K.
It's not pretty. Okay, 3-4 things in quick succession here, because I will talk about Caleb Williams on literally every show that's out there, hands down for sure. The simple things are, what he's bad at is worth the least amount of fantasy points. What he's good at is worth the most amount of fantasy points. So when you get into some of the analytics shows, we like analytics here. We're low production value, so we can't fly everything on screen. We have them in here. We look them up, and other people provide them, right? With Caleb, what I'm saying here in particular is, when it comes to his big plays, his clutch throws, and things like that, these are things that translate into fantasy points at a pretty great clip, right? So when you play fantasy football for a long time, you just look at a player on the field and you see how that translates into fantasy points, kind of hit that like NFL good versus fantasy good. Caleb's just the perfect mix of both. Now, here's the thing. He's not Lamar, where he's running 8 times for 100 yards or something like that. So I'm not saying like, oh, he's great because he gets the elevation from his legs. Just purely as a pocket passer, I think I already have him as a top 5-6 quarterback. It's the Drake May case. It's that he can get 2 to 3 points from his legs and continue drives. He only had 3 rushing touchdowns this year. I think that number probably should go up next year. If you look at the past 5 games, the middle of the year when we didn't really have our identity figured out yet, he was running 30, 40 yards a game, right? It was better for fantasy, but the best thing for fantasy is him throwing for 250 yards a game and consistently just making red zone drives where we put up 30 points a game. When he can consistently do that, and I think we're trending there. A couple things to put together at the end here. We have a tight end that might be the next Travis Kelce that is consistently translated into very good fantasy finishes. If you look at the correlation between quarterbacks that finish high and how good's their tight end, Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews forever. We got Kelce. Goff all of a sudden blows up. He has other pieces, but Laporta coming out of nowhere his rookie year didn't hurt, right? There's clearly an NFL situation where elite production from the tight end is good for fantasy at quarterback. So when you combine what scores the most points at fantasy, strength for Caleb, right? Big plays, finishing with points in the red zone. He's just striking it all good. Where Caleb could fall in the rankings is, what if he sucks? What if he has a CJ Stroud season? The last couple of weeks have eliminated that for me. And Ben Johnson is, you ever have a sales rep that's kind of loose and crazy and wild? You ever have a good sales manager? I'm trusting the manager here. I'm trusting Ben Johnson to eliminate the risk factor on my elevated ranking of Caleb.
Yeah, I like, obviously you and I are both in sales, so I like the way you put that from the sales perspective. But I think just to take the sales component out of it, I like how you said that you're trusting in Ben Johnson. I don't see a world where Caleb, outside of injury to himself or to the supporting cast, regresses because of coaching. And that's why I was kind of talking about in my Caleb take is like, this is a man who has attention to to detail. Right? This is a guy who's going to make sure that we're working on with this quarterback on the little things to increase this, completion percentage, increase the accuracy, because that's the kind of stuff that really does make a difference between a win and a loss, a deep playoff run and an early exit. So let's get into tier 4 here, because there's a couple names in my tier 3 that I think are going to pop up in your guys' tier 4. Kendall, I'll start with you. And by my math, we are on your QB 16 here, getting into kind of the middle of the QB 2s.
Yeah. So 3, just to recap: Purdy, Nix, T-Law, Jordan Love, Sam Darnold. Into tier 4, starting at QB 16, CJ Stroud, Tyler Shuck, Dak Prescott, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff. I have no idea what to do with Dak in the rankings, by the way. Just FYI, he could be at 12. He could be at 20. I have absolutely no idea. He's the one that sticks out for me as a sore thumb. But Stroud, Shuck, Prescott, Mayfield, Goff.
Evan?
16, Jordan Love. 17, Cam Ward. 18, Tyler Shuck. 19, J.J. McCarthy. And 20, Baker Mayfield.
In my tier 4, I only have 4 quarterbacks. At my tier 4, I'm at QB 14. Bo Nix, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, and Jared Goff. So I obviously don't have as many quarterbacks in each tier as the other guys, which is why I'm only on QB 17 and they are on QB 20. But you guys brought up the name that I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about here, because by my math, Evan, we have not seen him unless I missed him in your rankings, but I don't see Trevor Lawrence in there for you yet. Kendall, I have your rankings here. You have T-Law at 13. I have him at 13, just sitting outside that QB1. Evan, if you haven't heard my takes from the last 2 years, I have, Kendall can corroborate this. I have nailed the Jaguars picks the last 2 years. 2 years ago, I said, stay the fuck away, run for the hills. Disaster. It is the Hindenburg. And this year I said, low key, I'm kind of in on the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence just finished as the overall QB4, his best fantasy finish of his career. Evan, I'll start with you because you don't have him inside your top 20. What is it about Lawrence that doesn't suggest that he's ahead of names like Ward, Shuck, McCarthy?
So these rankings in this 4th tier are ones that I'm definitely planning on changing over the next few weeks. This is left over from the 2025 season, in which I had some faith in McCarthy, but I lost my faith in Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence I actually have at QB 21, which I am definitely going to be raising pretty soon. I think I'm starting to turn around on Trevor Lawrence now that he's finally got a real coach who's actually developing him with a Liam Cohen, who Cohen and Ben Johnson are 2 coaches that teams would have probably considered murdering somebody just to get. And thank goodness for the Jaguars that Cohen landed in Jacksonville, because that offense is starting to come together in its own force to be reckoned with in the AFC. The defense still needs a bit of work, but these things are not built in a day. These are things that are going to be built over the next few years that is going to end up being a flawless squeaky wheel. So Trevor Lawrence, I didn't have a lot of faith in at the beginning, because before the bye week, everybody was out on him like, oh, this guy sucks. He's not helping Brian Thomas Jr. Travis Hunter's not doing anything. And then they ended up trading for Jacoby Myers, which was a huge game changer for Trevor Lawrence. Now that he's finally got a wide receiver who doesn't drop passes. So Brian Thomas Jr. is just having a bad season, but we'll get to him at another show. Trevor Lawrence, I'm starting to come around in, just because once we got to the double-digit weeks this season, 3 touchdowns against the Cardinals, 2 touchdowns against the Titans, 2 against the Colts, 5 against the Jets, 3 against that tough Bronco defense. That's, I think, what sealed the deal for me in changing my mind about Trevor Lawrence. If he can get it done against a tough Bronco defense, yeah, I'm definitely going to be raising up in my rankings pretty soon. Compared to McCarthy, I still have some faith in him if Kevin O'Connell can actually cater to his talent. Like, give him some easy slant routes. Give him some easy screen passes, which he has not done for J.J. McCarthy. It's killing his confidence. So, long story short, I'm going to be changing my mind on Lawrence pretty soon. I'll be changing my rankings over the next few weeks when I have time.
And this is why it's the way too early 2026 Dynasty Rankings. Things are meant to change. Kendall, you're at 13. I'm at 13. I'm curious about, not shocked that we agree on this, but what I've been thinking about is this. Every single season, there are teams that make this sort of out of nowhere leap to become a playoff team, right? And there are teams that you're saying, well, this is a surefire thing. And the Kansas City Chiefs are in Cancun. And you would have said at the beginning of the season, Vegas, I don't know what the odds were that far back, but it would have been a safe bet, probably a very safe bet that they would have been a playoff team. My point is this. The Jaguars have been up and down. We like Liam Cohen. Any single team, the Colts are the perfect example, right? Colts were not great last season, and then boom, out of nowhere, 8-1 to start the year, only to finish 1-8. I understand Daniel Jones took that injury, but we know there are teams that are in the playoffs this year that will not be next year. Are the Jaguars one of those teams? And I understand that fantasy doesn't always correlate to being a playoff team, but with the signing and the retention of Jacoby Myers, with Travis Hunter, I would assume coming back to play both ways. And with BTJ, hopefully, Evan, to your point, just having a bad season and getting some, what's that stuff they had, sticky hands or whatever they had there in Little Giants. He's got to get something, right? Do you think Trevor Lawrence is more of a low-end QB1 moving forward? Or is this going to continue to be a teeter-totter where could be in the middle of the pack here where, 16, 17, 18 range? What do you see for the next 2 to 3 years for Trevor Lawrence?
Thrown to me?
Is that for me or
Oh,
Kendall?
that's for Kendall. That's for Kendall.
Yeah, so with Trevor Lawrence, the big take on him in terms of a ranking debates for me, if I look at the team situation, it all looks plus. I still like Travis Hunter as a good contributor. I'm a huge Jacoby Myers fan. And I thought BTJ was one of those, he was injured and lots of stuff happened. I am permanently lower on BTJ, but I also watched him a lot in college, and he was a phenom, an absolute phenom. I think his physicality won a little bit more in college, and maybe the skill level in the NFL needs to increase a little bit. But if you compare their offensive weapons against the rest of the NFL, and you're going to say, put Dak Prescott in Trevor Lawrence's shoes, and you're like, oh my God, they're going to 500-600 yards a game, right? It should be a good offense. I think Trevor was the problem for a little bit, but you get an adult in the room, a good offensive play caller, QB whisperer, and it started to, Liam Cohen started to put, as fantasy analysts, we look at stuff and we say 1 + 1 should equal 2, but it doesn't, right? Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson, these guys are guys that make the math, right? Everything we see and watch as a fantasy analyst, we're like, see, that wasn't so hard, right? Exactly. It's a lot harder than it looks. I'm quite sure, but you get it, right? Some things correlate. Liam Cohen's clearly correlating, and we've got some good talent on offense. The fantasy debate with Lawrence is legs or no legs, because it's easy to drop him a tier for inconsistency when he doesn't use his legs, because I can see him much like Sam Darnold, where it's the team's dope, JSN's dope, but sometimes Darnold's not the biggest part of that equation. I can see that with Lawrence, but this year with what he did with his legs, guy ran in how many touchdowns with his legs? I think it was 7 or 8. It was a lot. The games with 30, 40 rushing yards, it really starts to add up in terms of, the difference between QB 10 and QB 5 on a week might be 2.5 points, might be 3 points, right? So with Lawrence, I have to ask myself, with the accumulation of weapons and a good coach coming in next year, that continuity should lead to more cohesiveness on offense, right? And it should be good for Lawrence, especially if he keeps those legs up. I think he's capped. I think if he really had some serious dog in him, like we're seeing with Caleb relatively early, like we're seeing with a Jackson Dart, flawed, but some dog, we've given Lawrence forever. I think he's permanently capped. Even in their most recent playoff loss, I don't think it was all his fault, but there was a level he didn't hit that I saw in that game, right? There was a level of perfect execution that he just didn't hit, right? His receiver bobbled. It wasn't his fault the pick happened, but still, some quarterbacks just throw a completion there, right? Stafford would have, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying Lawrence is bad. Bo Nix could be bad. He could have a CJ Stroud. Oh, he hit some issues, right? Jackson Dart could not be good at throwing the football, and his best asset could be his leg. I think Lawrence is definitely not going to become Patrick Mahomes, not going to become Drake May, not going to become Justin Herbert. but he could be good enough along with good physical gifts that I think this is just the right place for him. I could see him dropping a tiny bit, but not much. I could see him rising up a little bit, but he's in that tier for me, and he's going to be surrounded by those guys. So whether that's investable, whether that's a buy or a sell, that's market perception, right? But I think he's going to stay around that range in terms of fantasy finishes will be a little bit higher on average than 13, but we draft hopefuls higher than him for the chance of winning a league, not just kind of getting third place. That's why he's depressed in rankings after a great season, if I had to explain that.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 13 for very much like what you just said. I think he's capped. Sure, it's QB4, right? But we've seen players that have kind of an outlier season. Justin Herbert and Jordan Love both, I think, have been in that top 5 one time and haven't revisited the top 5 since then. Jordan Love, I know for sure has. So, I just look at my rankings and I say, okay, is there a world outside of injury where Trevor Lawrence can get ahead of Allen, Burrow, Jackson, and May? No, there's not. Right? Can he get ahead of Daniels, Mahomes, and Hurts? I again, outside of injury, I don't think so. So right away, that's putting him at the QB8, right? And at the end of it all, Lamar missed most of the season. Jaden missed most of the season. Mahomes had a shit season. He had some great opening weeks, and then it sort of went all down the hill, right? So like you look at some of these names, and I just have a hard time saying like who, if everything is healthy. And that's not to say that Trevor Lawrence isn't going to be another QB1 again. I think he will be. But is it because he plays his way through it, or is it because there's guys around him that aren't fully available? I'm just not sure if I'm drafting that I'm comfortable with Trevor Lawrence in a super flex as my QB1. I feel great as my QB2. Fantastic as my QB2. But if I'm waiting late in an auction, or I've prioritized a different position in a snake, I don't know how great I feel in a super flex with Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback. My tier 4, I don't know if I did it or not, but I'll do it real quick. Bo Nix, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff. Let's get into tier 5, guys, because I don't have a single. Actually, I have one name in my tier 5 that has yet to come up. You guys have already said these names. My tier 5 is CJ Stroud, Sam Darnold, and Daniel Jones. I realize at QB 19, Sam Darnold may be a little disrespect. I have my reasons. We can get into those, but where do you guys have who is in your tier 5? Evan, I'll start with you because I know we just talked and finished with him. Trevor Lawrence is at QB 21.
Yeah.
Give us the rest of your 5th tier quarterback.
Sure. And then 22 is Bryce Young. 23 is Matthew Stafford. 24 is Sam Darnold. And then 25 is Michael Penix Jr.
Kendall?
All right, tier 5 for me. Tier 4 ended with Jared Goff. So actually, no, this is tier 4: Stroud, Shuck, Prescott, Mayfield, Goff. My tier 5. My tier 5 is going to have a theme. You'll see. Once I get to this tier, everybody has kind of you're in this category. It's not a ranking, it's a category.
Yep.
It's a flat list. JJ McCarthy, Bryce Young, Cam Ward,
Yep.
Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Michael Penix, Shedeur.
Yep.
21 through 27.
Yep. Your theme is very much my tier 6 theme. I will preview my tier 6 here real quick. I know we're not there yet, but Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, Michael Penix, Cam Ward. For those that are wondering, I chose not to rank Stafford and Rodgers because of age/potential retirement. So Stafford would be much higher. Stafford would be in my tier 4 with Nix, Love, Mayfield, and Goff in that 14 to 17 range. But I believe wholeheartedly, Kendall, I know you know this because we've talked about it. I believe wholeheartedly if the Rams win the Super Bowl this year, this is it. I don't think Stafford comes back.
Me and you might be two of the biggest Matt Stafford fans out there. I think we don't rank him because we look at him as a very uniquely utilized asset tool in your tool belt. He's not really fit for a rankings list.
We've had numerous debates when we talk about Puka and Devontae Adams being a 1st and 3rd round draft pick, that there is a disrespectful correlation to Stafford, because how could you possibly have someone you're investing a top 12 pick in with Puka that you are so confident is going to be a wide receiver 1, maybe the wide receiver 1, and is absolutely the first player you're drafting off the board? Well, who's throwing him the ball? So you're saying that Stafford suddenly is available in the 10th, 11th, 12th rounds? It doesn't make sense to me. We had this conversation a couple years ago about Sam Darnold with on the Vikings, right? We didn't believe that Sam Darnold had to be good in order for JJ to return a wide receiver 1 season. Justin Jefferson would bring Sam Darnold along, which is the same conversation we've had for 2 or 3 seasons in a row now about Puka and Devontae both returning wide receiver high-end wide receiver 2 numbers. Devontae Adams has done nothing the last 3 years except lead the league in touchdowns.
Can I list my QB 26 and 27 while we're at it?
Yeah, please.
26, I have Justin Fields, and 27, I have Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Ooh, Kyler.
So I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I think we do need to get into it a little bit here. I do want to talk about Sam Darnold because, and I said at QB 19, I thought that was disrespectful a little bit. And then Evan, you've got him at 24 and maybe you'll move him up or down, but Kendall, you have him all the way up at 15. Look, the contract said it was a 3-year contract if he performed, because they could have gotten out of it. It wasn't a very big dead cap, if my memory is right. There is not a world where Sam Darnold is not the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks next year. They are the number 1 seed in the playoffs, and God willing, they don't win this game this weekend. But if they win this game on Saturday, they're in the NFC Championship game, which is exactly what he failed to do and what cost him his job in Minnesota. So my question to the both of you is, it's almost that I brought the Matt Stafford thing up on purpose because I wanted to kind of tease it with what I'm going to ask you guys is, are we not respecting Sam Darnold enough, having him ranked at, Kendall, you're the highest at 15, 19, and 24? And do we need to have a maybe not tonight on this show, but do we as a fantasy community need to have a longer thought and conversation about really putting him in that mid to high QB2 range?
No, I don't think I'm the highest on him.
Yeah, I would say, Kendall, you go first because you were pretty quick to answer that.
Yeah. I'm categorically saying no because I intentionally put him as high as I can get him for the market value conversation. He's going to get a bigger contract. He's going to get an extension. He's going to be their franchise quarterback. No offense, I like his backup. He's got a nice arm, man. I like him. But no, you don't do what he just did on that team, and you're not just like a permanent installment. It's just that his production just does not translate to fantasy points. He's playing the wrong game. He's playing a really awesome game in the NFL we love to watch. But he's not playing fantasy football. We are, and we got to run a scoring system. And he doesn't use his legs, and they love to run the ball, and they love to punch it in with Tam Charbonnet. The scoring output from a what wins games to what wins fantasy games is pretty askew with Sam Darnold. I put him up in 15 just from a long-term dynasty perspective. I had to put some respect on the fact that he's going to get a payday and a contract and a level of he's not going anywhere on a perennial playoff team with the number 1 wide receiver. Like that deserves, not deserves, that just will score reasonably in fantasy, but it's not, he's not going to score more than Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, specifically those 4 names, because they all score 2 to 3 plus points with their legs, and Darnold doesn't, and the team loves to rush the ball. So I put him there as a, hey, he's more stable than CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, higher ceiling, lower floor, right? Baker Mayfield, lower floor, higher ceiling. Jared Goff's just old. Dak's going to be fading at some point. The guys I listed under him legitimately have a higher ceiling week to week and season to season. But in a 2-year window, you're scared out of your mind, right? Sam Darnold, I'm not scared out of my mind in a 2-year window. He's going to be the same player 2, 3, 4 years. I just want to give him enough credit for what if he can get a little bit better. Yeah, like, no one's giving him credit for getting better. The one thing we're saying in this argument is like he doesn't have legs, but we're not giving him the same touchdown numbers as some of the guys a little bit higher. I do think there's a world where their tight end game's okay, and their better tight end's going to get a little bit healthier, and this Horton kid gets healthy, and maybe they've got something. If they can develop a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball outside of the run game, just there's a world of outcomes where Sam Darnold has a 35 touchdown season. I just think it's low likelihood. The only reason I strategically put him there is because don't be blind to it. All of a sudden he has a blinding season. It's just a low percentage chance, and that's why it's impossible to rank him stupid high. It's why Evan has him buried. Evan probably doesn't think he's a bad NFL quarterback. I just think Evan doesn't want to roster him in fantasy.
I mean, it's not that I don't want to roster him in fantasy. It's that I don't believe he's got a lot of long-term value left because the Seattle Seahawks spent a second-round pick on Jalen Milroe. I think the overall plan the Seahawks would like out of him is for him to develop behind Sam Darnold, and then Darnold won't be a part of the long-term. Yeah, we know Darnold has a 3-year contract, but you got to give Milroe some time to develop into being NFL ready. So I don't think Darnold is a guy that you want to bank on as a solid QB2 for the foreseeable future. He's an asset that it's a bag I don't want to be holding on my dynasty team. I'll put it that way. I don't hate Sam Darnold either. I like him, but he's definitely not the long-term option for the Seattle Seahawks. I think they want you to see what they have in Jalen Milroe.
Evan, I'm going to ask you this. This is a 10-second answer. I saw this offer, this trade offer come through in a league last week. Would you rather, in a super flex, would you rather have the 110 or Sam Darnold?
I can't give a simple answer like that. I have to see the rest of the team. I have to know what my goal is. Am I winning now? Like, there's too much. There are too many details to it that I can't give a simple answer.
Kendall, 110 or Sam Darnold?
Darnold easy.
Yeah, I'm on the Darnold.
I think the 110
that
sucks
one as well.
this year. I think the 109 sucks this year too, to be honest.
I think it's more of like a late first question, but it would just happen to be the 110. Here's why I asked it. I don't think this is the greatest. We're going to get into the rookies on a completely different show and give them the time they deserve to break them all down. But I don't think this is, we all agree, I would assume on this. Kendall, I know you and I do. This isn't the deepest quarterback class. I think it's Mendoza, who's the clear 101 and seems to be like he's already packing his bags for Vegas to be the Raiders' new quarterback, unless there's a crazy trade. But that seems, whoever put it this way, whoever is going to move up for him, I think Mendoza is going to be the 101. There's enough quarterback needy teams. I have questions about Moore from Oregon, and he seems to be the consensus QB2. And then after that, it's like, did Chambliss play his way into this thing? Is Carson Beck in this? So we're going to do a whole segment on the rookies, but I don't think if you were in a super flex league, a late first is where I am searching for a quarterback. I think you are reaching. I'd rather have a wide receiver. I'd rather have a running back in that spot. And if I have to and I need a quarterback, I think I'd rather have Sam Darnold. So let's move into the next segment here, guys, because I want to spend a little bit of time here on this. Each of you, you know this, who's going to make the biggest leap in the rankings in 2026? Kendall, I'll start with you. Who is a quarterback on your list? It doesn't have to be a tier 4 suddenly moving up. Could be a guy that's in your tier 2 that jumps into that, cements himself as a true top 3, top 4 guy. But who is going to make the biggest leap in the rankings from a dynasty perspective in 26?
Okay. 2 names. One, I don't have a ton of confidence in, but man, if it happens, I think it happens actually pretty kind of hard. Tyler Shuck, I think, keeps his legs, continues to put up some decent fantasy production, and with an added wide receiver room, I think he actually finishes as like a top 16 quarterback. He's basically being ranked outside the top 20. Most people have him outside their top 22, 24. I have him pretty aggressive. I think he gets inside the top 16. I think he ends up around like Phil, where you have Bo Nix, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff.
Yep.
I could see Shuck sliding in at that Mayfield Goff QB 16, 17 range. And that is a decent amount of spots up. So he would be one. My called shot's a guy that you're going to want to hear. I'm not going to make a Caleb Williams take. I'll let someone else do that. Actually, I kind of like him where he's at. My newly developed spicy take is that Brock Purdy ends up being a fringe top 5 quarterback come next year. I am insanely impressed with the kid. I think he's only getting better. I think his ADOT's insane. I think he's got great coaching. I think they'll find weapons around him. And when he has no weapons, he makes Jake Tunges look good. I think we're ranking Purdy outside the top 10. I think ECR has him at like QB 13 or 14. They don't have him as high as we do. I see him at least finishing inside the top 8.
So what you're saying is that you would trade Brock Purdy as part of a package to get him on your team and get rid of Josh Allen. That's what you're
definitely saying. You should tear down from Josh Allen to get Purdy, and also a really nice buy low wide receiver set to take a big leap in 2026. You should definitely do that deal, Phil.
Should you do that with Devonta Smith added and another pick and another? Because I think that would be a pretty good deal. So
You got to do what you got to do to win the league, man.
Evan, give me a player.
I won
who
that
you
league
think-
too, Phil.
I know you did. I know. I finished 4th in that league. So, give me a player in your rankings who you think is going to take the biggest leap in 2026.
I think it's got to be Cam Ward. The talent is just there. The Titans, we don't know what they're going to be doing at this time between their head coach. Are they going to fix the offensive line? Are they actually going to give Cam Ward receivers worth a shit to throw the football to? Like, because Cam Ward doesn't show a ton of rushing upside, which you don't necessarily need in quarterbacks. I know there's this obsession in 2 QB Superflex leagues where you got to have the rushing quarterback because they're more valuable because they might fall in the end zone and you can treat them like running backs. But you can have a guy like a Cam Ward as long as you give him weapons. The Titans don't have that this year. Will they have that next year? Hopefully. But I think Ward will definitely show improvement because the team definitely trusts him to throw the football. 540 attempts doesn't come easy from rookies. And 3,169 yards passing, yeah, because he had fucking jack and shit to throw the football to. So I think it's got to be Cam Ward.
Yeah. I think it's Jackson Dart. I don't see it. Again, I hope that there is an aggressive play caller that comes in who utilizes his skill set and then the weapons around him. But you have to remember this. Jackson Dart had a phenomenal rookie season where he didn't play 18 games, 17 games, right? Because nobody really plays in week 18, even though he did. But he wasn't the week 1 starter. He lost Cam Scadaboo, who was possibly on his way to being 100% in the conversation for Rookie of the Year, possibly winning the frickin' award before his injury. He gets Malik Neighbors back. So to me, I see a world where Jackson Dart finishes ahead of Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Jaden Daniels, and really puts himself in the Josh Allen, Drake May, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow category. Now, I understand Joe Burrow, to your point, Evan, like doesn't run a ton, but when you have those 2 receivers, you can get yourself to a place without running because of those receivers and through the yardage and obviously the touchdowns that Burrow is capable of. Joe Burrow's problem has always been the same thing. Joe Burrow, he's got to get himself healthy. But I see Jackson Dart moving into that elite top 3, 4, 5 in the QB5 range this next year, given health and the receivers, and the weapons around him. Let's go the other side, guys. Evan, I'll start with you. Who's the biggest faller in your rankings? Who's someone that you look at right now and you say, you know what, I like him, but I could see a world outside of injury where he just regresses? Who is that player for you right now?
I don't have anybody falling dramatically.
Sure.
I mean, maybe 1 or 2 spots, but I don't think we need to split hairs here. I don't think we're going to see anybody dramatically fall. Most of the quarterbacks are young and they only have up to go to. Like, we already lost the old guys like Aaron Rodgers. So anyway, point being is that I don't think anybody's going to fall dramatically.
Kendall?
Jalen Hurts. He could fall from the bottom of tier 2, where we kind of have him buried, to the bottom of tier 3, which for a high-end quarterback, the fact that it's possible is pretty alarming. Your tier 2 is when you're supposed to have like 1 question mark, tiny one. He's got too many. A no tush push or a team not set up for it, or just what I just think there's an issue where Jalen Hurts could fall another 5 spots.
Jalen Hurts is my faller for the same reasons.
Oh, you had him too?
Yeah. I think there's a world where AJ Brown is not an Eagle next year. I think the tush push could be a play that goes on to, it was voted on this year and it did not get eliminated. It could be another rule change this year at the coaches meeting where it does get passed and it gets eliminated. I don't think that will happen, but if he loses AJ Brown, if the tush push gets eliminated, if Saquon gets injured, there's just too many variables. Dallas Goedert's getting older. I don't think that Jalen Hurts is going to be a bad quarterback. I think he's a faller for me because there's some question marks about the Eagles, and I think there's some players I have ranked below him who I think are just going to pass him by. I think that's realistically why he's a faller for me. So, Kendall, can you give me 2 minutes on the clock, please? We're going to do the 2-minute drill here, and then we are going to wrap the show. I have one quarterback and one, it's a quarterback episode. I have 1 quarterback buy and 1 quarterback sell. Whenever you are ready.
Started.
My quarterback buy in Dynasty is Dak Prescott. He has only had one season outside the top 10 when he is fully healthy, and that was in 2018, and he was still the QB 14. He finishes a QB 6 this past season. He is under contract in Dynasty. Contracts matter. He is under contract for 2 more seasons. Pickens does not have to be a Cowboy for Dak to return QB1 numbers. We have seen that with just CeeDee Lamb being there. And if you are outside the top 5 picks in Superflex, you will miss out on Mendoza and more. So if you need a quarterback, offer a mid to late first plus something small to quote unquote even the deal out and get yourself someone who is almost guaranteed to be a QB1 for your Dynasty team. The QB sell I have is Josh Allen. All this guy does is he returns overall QB1 or QB2 numbers. The overall QB1 or overall QB2 numbers. Here's why I have him as a sell. He is your most valuable asset. Obviously, if you are competing, you are going to keep Josh Allen. But if you are not quite there, if you are in that middle of the pack, or if somehow you have Josh Allen and the rest of your team just doesn't suggest that you're going to be a team that competes and you are in a rebuild, he is the best chance for you to get the most bang for your buck and rebuild your team. If you're in a snake or a Dynasty Superflex and you drafted Allen at the 101, that's great. But what does the rest of your team look like? In a single quarterback, 6-point passing league, my comp is I traded Josh Allen for Brock Purdy, Devonta Smith, a 2027 first, a 2027 third. We just discussed how Brock Purdy can still finish inside the top 12, certainly could finish inside the top 10 to return low-end QB1 numbers, plus additional assets. As much as I love Josh Allen, he is someone that can get you the proverbial haul in Dynasty, and that is how you rebuild a Dynasty roster. That was the 2-minute drill. We need a sponsor for this section. You need to have the 2-minute drill presented by Tide Pods. Something. We got to get something there, but
we got to work on it. Evan, we're calling your company tomorrow.
We got
I'll
things,
call
man.
Phil's
We got
company.
things we got to get going here. Yeah. I don't know that Zoom is going to be sponsoring our show anytime soon, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
I'm calling them anyways, man.
Yeah, why not? So, Evan, tell the people who are listening on Spotify and Patreon who maybe aren't watching the show, where can they find your fantasy content, please?
So my social handle's cut off a little bit with my name tag, but follow me on Blue Sky, Barely Fantasy. Don't bother with Twitter because I don't care about it anymore. Otherwise, look me up, Barely Fantasy, on YouTube. My channel's there. I'm up to 149 subscribers right now. I haven't posted anything new since December just because the fantasy season ended. I broke my toe. I haven't been in the mood to make anything new, but hopefully you guys are already subscribed to Get Right Fantasy as well, where Kendall and I just did a Dynasty show back on January 8th, which I finally got uploaded today. Bunch of new YouTube shorts to go with it too, to try and entice people to watch it in video form. It's not a live show, it's an actual video. So we're hoping that does better with the viewership. Look at it all, man. I think Kendall and I nailed it this past Thursday.
I hope so. We'll see how the takes lay out, but
Kendall, where can everybody find you?
Man, you can find me here at the Get Right Fantasy Network. Catch me on Phil's show basically every Tuesday till forever. And when Phil takes a hiatus, we'll put something in there. Won't be as good, but then he'll be back. So check me out there. Hop in the Discord. You know me. I'm always answering big, long-winded questions in our Discord. You can find that all in the description. It's a nice community. We're known to be degenerate mock drafters. If when the wife and the kids fall asleep, you want a mock draft, we always have one running. We actually answer like every question that comes in the Discord. We're players first before analysts. And that's where you can find me, man. Right here.
As always, I am here on the Get Right Fantasy Network. You can find me on X at P Ruskin, on Instagram at _extra_point_FFB. Jump on Patreon and subscribe, as well as on Spotify. And you can find me there at the Extra Point. For all of us here at the Get Right Fantasy Network, Evan, Kendall, appreciate you guys being here tonight. We will be back next week going through our running back dynasty rankings as we get into 2026, followed by our wide receivers, and we will wrap it up with the tight ends and overflow. So looking forward to another couple weeks of two early rankings before we take a little break and then we get into those rookies. So appreciate y'all being here. Thanks for being fans of the show. This has been another episode of The Extra Point. We out.
Fantasy is the play. Marking nothing but I tune every Friday. Strategies provided.